Hey, welcome back to another installment of Shop Talk Tuesday. I forgot what I was doing. Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I had a chance to do one of these. I do apologize. I had a miss last week of just busy September, and part of it was not related to bike shop life, it's just more personal life, and had to go do some work at some other place and time. And basically, we have a condo in Vegas, and I had to do some fixings, like painting and so forth. So it was like work, but not fun work. But in any case, we're back. I'm back. We're back in the garage. Hopefully, you're able to join me on the live stream here, which is uninterrupted by the AdSense drop advertisement. I will plug in, sprinkle a couple of my little promo bits because that's how I support my channel. So, without further ado, let's start diving into the Shop Talk Tuesday. And a little bit about myself. If you're the first time coming on to the Shop Talk Tuesday, I've been in the industry for over 35 years. And now I have basically a bike shop out of my garage, out of my home, not like a service garage or industrial building garage. It's made a garage, a 2-car garage, bump out, and my bedroom's literally right upstairs above us, and made a bike shop out of it. And after all these years of working in shops and so forth, basically this is where my life has landed. And it's one of those situations where it gives me a great opportunity to service my community, doing repairs and refurbishing used bikes and parts and so forth, in addition to launch the whole social media, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching me. This is where we're at, and that has kind of changed my life in a lot of different ways, and my workflow and my business model. So there's several different perspectives of that. And in addition to, I worked with shops small from my parents' mom and pop shop back in the 90s, Parker Bikes, to some bigger locations, some multiple location bike shops, and also a software program which was also owned by a bike shop to have managed inventory. So my toes have been dipped in from almost all aspects of the bike shop realm, and I still enjoy doing it. So here we are, and I love talking about it, and I love bringing our community in and giving a safe space of bike shop people to either work at shops, own shops, have their own little mobile shop, or people that just avidly ride or just want to have some tech tips. It's kind of a place where we all can get together and talk about, first, industry news, and second, address some questions. And I do have a few people that do chime in into the chat that are in from shops that will help me guide you through the best practices of the current state of the state, because cycling realm has become so ginormous from the 90s that not any one person, mechanic, shop owner alike can know everything. It's just gotten out of hand in some perspectives. Others love more of it, but in any case, we're all have our own special little niches, and we are really experts of those specific niches. So you're in a good place if you want to ask questions about product, some questions about how to work on certain things. I do have a form. It's in the description below. Also, I put it in the chat. If you want to fill that out, I'll try to address those during our particular live stream today. And that's going to be the second half. So that'll be the top of the hour of next hour. This is usually a 2-hour segment. And I usually pull a few leader questions from chats from my YouTube channel, from certain videos, also emails. It's a great place for me to explain things and shoot it off to those individuals that ask those particular questions and a little more, because let's face it, sometimes it's not just a straightforward answer, and it's a little more heavier lift to explain just by endless emails or comments. So the video platform is spectacular to dive in and explain a lot of the stuff that goes on in the cycling realm, community, bikes, everything else in between. But then again, thank you for joining me here on Shop Talk Tuesday. We got a lot of people filling in. This is great. I'll be starting the news, or my perspective of the latest industry topics. Nothing really like Chicken Little-ish, but there are some things to take a look at. And currently where we're at is the second part of the informational news portion would be what our bike shops are doing going into the off season. For us here in the States, a lot of us are in September. This is when this is airing in September. And we're going into the off season. And usually this is when we start licking our wounds, and hopefully we're still busy. But this is a great time to capitalize on what to do next before Christmas hits and we get lazy and fat and whatever from the holidays. So a lot of those gold nuggets get kind of forgotten in January and February. Like, oh, Billy had a great idea. What was that? And if you don't write it down or make note of it or so forth, it's going to be lost. So we'll go over some of those things. So if you're in a shop and you're in the heat of the moment, it might be a good time to pencil down a couple of these. And a couple of the topics I'm going to go over are going to kind of re-jazz that brain cell and not be just in the heat of the moment and that kind of thing. All right, let's do a few shout outs here in the chat. We've got some good people joining in. This is awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Love getting back to my community. This is great. Sales service. Well, that's a great title there for our channel. Interesting times of owning a bike shop, even on eBay shop, like myself. Yeah, a lot of us have, mechanics and so forth have veered off of the bike shop place and find ourselves selling a whole bunch of stuff on eBay, including myself, as well as my website and so forth. That's been going on for years. There's nothing new there, and a lot of shops have taken that as a piece. But thank you for sales service, great point. And yes, we will talk about some of those topics, perspectives in a few moments here. Randy, thank you for joining. Brother from another mother, yes. Yeah, it's a little bit warmer in Texas and probably the beginning of your cycling season since things are cooling off. And yeah, thanks you for chiming in. And I'm back home. Took a long actual drove to Las Vegas, which is a long day there, fixed up the condo, and a long drive back. We're getting a prep to do short-term rental, that kind of thing, since trips are being a little more elongated. So if you've watched my channel and watched some of my stuff, you might have noticed I've had palm trees behind me by doing these either lives or some videos. That's the location. We'll be going back there again and featuring some shops in the future when we go back to basically clean up the place for the next tenant. That was always the purpose, is the investment property, that kind of thing. But that's all, that's this did not make this, the wife, the wife's income that enables me to do all this is where that came from. So in any case, don't think I'm doing this and buying properties like Monopoly. No, that's not the case. If anybody's been in the industry for even a hot minute knows that you're not here for the money, you're here for the community, really what it comes down to. And if you're not here for the community, you're not going to be here for very long, because it definitely is not the money for it. Thanks for chiming in, Randy. Love having you in the chat. Always great information coming from you. Polite Chilahana. I always butcher that. I am sorry, but the 90s were good times to be working in a bike shop. I do agree. I was basically formed most of my cycling experiences at my parents' bike shop in Parker, and the 90s was a great time for new innovation. Like, some of it didn't work out, obviously, but it was interesting times for sure. Oh, nice. AT, could you recommend a road bike for $500? I have a hybrid all-terrain now, and it is even worth that price point. Just looking for used. There's excellent used products out there right now. In my market specifically, I'm finding full carbon bikes with Ultegra componentry, decent componentry, like mid-level to upper end level for under 500. They may need a little bit of work though. So we can address that. Well, I'll add that to the questionnaire topic list. Used bikes. What's a good one? And I'll tell you a couple of little gold nuggets. And I have a huge video library on how to shop for used or what to watch out for used bikes in my video library. You can pick on, there's like a top 20 thing, pretty lengthy. Those are older videos, so I do apologize. The audio is crap. You know, I had longer hair. I was during my hippie days, whatever. I was trying to be somebody else, like the farmer. No, just kidding. We launched at the same time. But anyway, we'll talk about that here in a moment. But that's awesome. Thank you for bringing up that question. Oh, you know, polite. Yeah, Facebook Marketplace is a good place to start for locally. Yeah, for used, and also Craigslist. But Craigslist can get a little sketchy. Sometimes you'll find a lot of stolen product on there too. You got to be mindful of that. Oh, still 100 degrees in in Texas. Yeah, I mean, today is a cooler day for us in Colorado. It's in the 50s. That is a pretty good dip, and it's raining, which we don't have an all-day rain event, but we do have all-day rain event today. But it'll jump back up in the 70 degrees to 80 degrees. And if you're watching this from out of the States and thinking Celsius and don't want a conversion, basically it's 30 degrees cooler today than it has been pretty warm. And we're going to get back into that, which kind of like the atmosphere, or not atmosphere, the climate. Let's not say climate change. That's a naughty word nowadays, but the climate alterations, whatever that may be, has shifted. And this has been going on. I've noticed it that we used to have snowstorms in September. That's not even the case. We'll have a rain event like today, which would have been a snowstorm back in the 90s. But what that does is it elongates our season, which is great because it helps people keep jazzed about riding bikes and going out. And since it's on a Tuesday instead of the weekend, it's going to be back in the 70s and 80s, 90s in the weekend, people are going to be out there riding their bikes, which is freaking awesome. But yeah, thanks for reminding me of the temperature and fluctuation. And we're, as a shop, brick and mortar perspective, they're very volatile to weather, regardless it's too hot, too cold, or otherwise in between. Yeah, co-ops are another good place, polite to look for used bikes. Also, there's some donation bike shops where I picked up a few where they do fix up bikes and resell for a nonprofit. I'm hoping to feature that. More Better Bikes is a location in Denver, North Denver, and it's a nonprofit, and I was blown away what they were doing. Pulled at my heartstrings, and I'm hoping to get hold. Since I'm back now, I can really focus on hoping to get that individual or the guy that runs it, interview them and kind of feature their shop in a nonprofit perspective, and share that with you guys. Anyway, awesome. Let's see. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about tariffs, but not so much. Yeah, it will be. It's in a weird effect, what I see in my perspective. Continued ice age melt. Yeah, it's not like a swing that gets to the point where, you know, we're all going to be moving up to Canada for, you know, more tempered climate. I wouldn't be surprised. But any case, woo! All right, great intro. Got some people in here. Going to do a little beginning sponsor thing. Get the house cleaning done. We'll just start that now. Brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel, but give you a good quality, safe ride to be able to do those extended rides and get into cycling. You'll find a link below with added savings. Extend that adventure starting now. Cut me off guard. I thought it was a little bit longer. All right, let's start with As the Wheel Turns, So Do the Days of Our Rides segment of our Shop Talk Tuesday. And with that, it's my opinion piece of what we've seen or have been seeing in the cycling industry. And there's kind of about 4 or 5 perspectives of just the general state of the cycling realm. As we're going into the fall season, this has some pretty, I would say, catastrophic forecasting for a lot of big manufacturers and supply chains and so forth. We haven't seen anything, haven't seen nothing yet. We're still floating on the coattails of a little bit stronger economy, A lot of inventory left over from the development of pushing product out for after COVID, those particular things. And we've had some serious disruptions, and it's made a lot of companies scratch their head and basically pull back a lot of shipping products development and all that into the United States specifically. So if you're watching this from out of the United States realm, welcome first. Second, it's it's one of those things that nobody really knew how crazy this would get, and it just seems to just keeps going. And as a business perspective, a small perspective of mine, working with some of these or larger companies, it's you see the pain. You've talked to the reps, you've met the CEOs, and I met John Burke at one point through my travels. I'm sure I've met some upper-ranking individuals at Specialized and Giant and so forth over the several decades I've worked, and you have to put yourself in their shoes a little bit. The greed train is over, as some people are really still miffed about how the cycling industry is formed the last 20 years. But it's basically, they have to get back to grassroots. And one of the big issues is supply chain and how they're going to consolidate. Consolidation is going to be huge for a lot of these companies, and we're already seeing that. Like yesterday, I saw Muck-Off is going to be sold through QBP, which is Quality Bike Supply. So if you don't know the back end of this, if you're just a cyclist, Quality Bike Supply is one of the vendors that we purchase a lot of our parts and stuff. That's where also we get Surly's and is it Surly? Yeah, Surly's and a couple other brand bikes, but mostly it's just your bread and butter, suspension, cables and housing, tubes and tires, and so forth. Well, they brought on Muck-Off, which is a pretty big brand of cleaning supplies and various other bits. And that's just a prime example of their kind of supplying to all these different vendors is going to focus on one and just kind of, clean the pipeline going into this next season with all the disruption that's been going on and trying getting product into the United States, the big T word. And you want to be mindful because I don't want to be canned like Kimmel. Anyway, no, side note. Bad joke. Any case, with the inventory being so questionable, because a lot of the disruption, some of these companies saw it in the tea leaves after the election, and they stocked up, filled up their warehouses and so forth within the United States, and hopefully they had the right inventory or got it in before everything hit. And with that, the companies are also, a lot of them are so stressed. The company is stressed to the point where they have to start looking into partnership with other companies for pipelining their inventory, or vice versa, or some are just going to go out of business. And there's a lot of disruption where companies have been doing that the last couple of years, because it's already been volatile for the cycling industry in that perspective. Europe's seen a lot of that hits. Some of the brands are like Wiggle, that had like 4 or 5 brands. They've had some liquidation. The names got sold out. They're owned by others. And, there's been some shifts there. Pond Holdings has been buying companies for a while, and now they're kind of been shelving, like they shelved GT within the last year. So those are the supply chain consolidation, how we're going to work this, how we're going to push through products in and hope for the best. And at the end of the day, hope to get the products to the consumers and to the bike shops without too much price disruption and quantities disruption. So we've had that obviously through COVID globally, that things shrink up, and we don't want to see that. And also what's been curbing the market is the slowage of selling high-end bikes to mid-range bikes, and new bike sales have dropped, but used is increased a little bit, and service is blown up. Everybody's getting their bikes that they currently have, and they're fixing those and riding them. They're going to hold off on buying anything new. So with that in mind, consolidation of a lot of supply chains are going to consolidate down. Also, closing warehouses, streamlining those. There's been a couple of those in the Bicycle Retailer magazine. This guy, Industry News. It's not all in the paperback. It's also online. I do have a link in the description below. You can read on some of those articles there that reference that. Warehouses are consolidating, closing, that kind of thing. And that's been going on. I mean, it's not, you know, or vice versa. Opening warehouses has been very small. So what Specialized did in the last year or two, and this is something big for them, they were renting a warehouse space in Utah, and they had a building built that they owned. They made it big to a point where they can bring on some other brands and be a distributor as well as their own brand of Specialized and their products. So that being said, this consolidation has been a pretty big alteration and thought out plan before everything hit this year, but that's kind of probably elevated a lot of moves a little bit faster than anticipated. The second big thing that we're looking at is inventory reduction efforts. This is not new. Trek had a memo leaked from John Burke about reducing their SKUs by 40%. Working in several Trek stores over the millennium decades, they had way too much stuff. Too many, I mean, you got a pair of gloves and you got 14 colors, for example. It's just way too much. Or they had 18 different models of gloves, which you really just needed 4. And being an inventory manager and listening to the buyers in the shop buying from these various companies, and like, and it's usually a dollar amount per category they have to hit, but they had too much. They're like end all be all of everything. And they realized that was a huge Achilles heel for their business because they had too much money invested on too much product that was sitting there, i.e. a lot of stuff started getting discounted and flushed out. Because what the cycling world likes to do is, we got the new thing, like every year, bike show, new thing this year, and usually something across the whole line, from bike gloves to bicycles. It's just, they always had to try something new, the new model year, to kind of jazz people up to buy more new stuff and providing that Kool-Aid, right? So inventory reduction was hit pretty hard amongst other aspects of that business. That is, I would say, across the board with all other industry manufacturers or design companies that have product coming into the United States, whatever you want to call them. I'm not a business expert, but I'm a bike shop mechanic, part owner, expert. So my perspective of this, it's a hot mess for them, and they've been reducing that prior to our latest issues. So reducing that inventory, what is that going to mean for you as the consumer and you as the bike shop? Well, maybe not as many things to pick from, so you're not going to have 5 different tubes types to choose from for doing your service, which is probably a good thing because you got to reduce anyway. So everybody's all on the same page. We got to scale down the quantities of what we need or different types, and then just go narrow and deep. And what narrow and deep means, instead of just having 1 or 2, one to show, one to go product on the peg hook on your wall, is going to be more of a big push of, we have 45 of these and we're going to hopefully sell through them and get 2 to 3 turns a year off of them. Okay, I got probably lost in the weeds, and some of you are just cyclists. I just go in the bike shop and get a pair of gloves. Well, that means like, well, not maybe as many variety, but they're still going to have gloves. But the flip side on that is they're going to be more expensive, most likely. Either or they've already popped the price on them to bring them up to anticipation, or using an excuse of the big T word, or they are actually starting to pay those tariffs, and then they have to adjust for that. A lot of these companies are eating a portion of that to keep the MSRP down, but that's going to be a huge issue. So what are they going to bring in? They're going to bring in stuff that they know that sells. It's rock bed inventory. So that's going to be the huge perspective going into 26 and 27, because quite honestly, people, when they do these orders and so forth overseas, they're not going to stop buying from Taiwan, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, and also the European markets from Italy and various other countries to get product in. That's just not, to switch that flip that switch to do that, to have everything built within the isolationism of the United States, of just building it all here, is a 5 to 10 to 20-year plan. It doesn't happen in 2 years. So we're going to still have to have inventory come in for the next half a decade to a full decade. So that's where people get kind of confused. Like, well, and then the companies make a plan for the next year. Well, that's a year out, right? So it's like, okay, they're already starting to do pencil work for 27. Like, okay, this is what we're going to adjustable on the fly if need be, but it's going to be a line plight, and there are agreements with these companies or how much product and what kind of product is going to be altered quite a bit, and have a flexible portion of it. It not just hurts the companies in the United States. They're trying to bring in, it hurts all companies trying to put it in products anywhere or have them manufactured. So there, you're going to have some reduction of inventory, big time for sure. On that note. Absolutely. But on a little bit lighter note, the e-bike sales are still up. You love them or hate them, don't like getting buzzed by somebody that's not pedaling on the bike paths or the trails or what have you. It's here to stay. It is something that's still selling. It's the bikes that are selling for a specific, a decent price. So therefore, there's some of a margin to work with. Also, it's a huge opportunity for a lot of shops to shift gears, get trained up, and do multiple e-bike services. There's been a plethora of kind of junk pushed into pretty everywhere. And we got to be mindful of that. And bike shops, we're going to help you navigate if it's safe. And if you're thinking about buying, before you click that, yes, I want that bike, check with your local shop to see it's something that they actually would work on. Because if it's not a company that can get serviceable parts from, you might be dead in the water if that thing comes in. And getting hold of some of these companies, they're usually a foreign company, where it might be really hard to get replacement parts and so forth and service from them. So be mindful of that. That's a kind of a warning and cautionary tale of pretty much buying anything online direct to your home. So if it's not a brand that's a very big, familiar brand, you might think about that. But the e-bike perspective is definitely helped a lot of shops out to do service, even if they sold their own e-bikes or they're servicing others, gone down to even scooters and so forth. Go Guava is another channel. They have a shop in Pennsylvania, I believe, and they just went in deep with it. Now they have a whole bunch of different brands, and he has a good few videos on going through the woes of. He's a new shop. He's like 2 years old, so it's one of those things where it's really interesting to see the perspective of a newbie going in, going, crap, and doing those on adjustment flies. You can't be a stick in the mud at any in our business right now in the cycling industry, because your market may change, and if you're not changing with it, you're not going to be there later, most likely, because there's not a lot of money right now in bigger ticket items to help bike shops make that huge profit, but there's a huge amount of service, and that's where e-bikes come in play on that. And if you have those connections with all those different brands and have the certifications from like Bosch and so forth, those would really help. I do have a buddy, Josh. He has Precision e-bike, which is in Fort Collins, Colorado. That's all he does is e-bikes and e-bikes repair. He's been doing e-bikes for the last 20 years. So this is nothing new to him. So his experiences and insights are just huge. And he's already brought to my light of like, well, some of the stuff I can't work on or I won't work on because of X, Y, and Z. I can't get hold of the company, can't get the parts, it's not safe, that kind of thing. Or, then on the flip side of it, you got to make sure you have the insurances and all that. So in the business model of it, I'm not insured. I don't think my insurance policies cover e-bikes and that kind of thing. So I'm limited to just the regular mechanisms of bikes, like the shifting and the brakes, and not the motors and the batteries and so forth. But if you're a shop that's starting off, or if your local shop is just getting into doing more e-bike service and so forth, if they're on it, or are they looking forward to getting into more of that service opportunity, that's going to be a change. So the industry has shifted on the front lines there. As in those companies like Trek and Specialized and Giant, well, they're still producing them, even though they're going to shrink down the volume that's coming in because their sales are slowing, and they still have them, but they're going to probably put more money into the e-bikes than they're probably into the race teams. Let's put it that way. Because what is race teams making them money right now? Not much, because nobody's jazzed to go buy a $10,000 bike because they're worried about losing their job next week. So, or everything else has gone up, so they're kind of worried about, everybody, the common woes of a downturn and direction of the economy. So that's what we're looking at that. But anyway, that is a positive note. It's still business for the cycling community. And there's a lot of different perspectives just to throw out there for people that are riding e-bikes. There are those who just need something to keep up with their buddies. Those who just need to be inspired to go a little bit further, or commuting and so forth. It's not these jack wagons that just blast as fast as they can, which there are a few on the paths, but most of them, more often than not, are just people who just want to get out there and ride. And I think it's a positive in some perspective, because those individuals may not even be riding bikes if it wasn't for that electric assist bike. So therefore, but you still have the other elements. But then again, any category, you still have wankers out there that are going to make it bad for everybody else, or this bad stigma. I mean, mountain bikers, we destroyed the trails back in the 90s. Road guys, we're like 4 or 5 abreast, taking up the whole lane of the road and not being mindful of traffic. Things of that nature. And we've all probably done a little like bad cycling, behavior at some point, but most of us just like riding. And for myself, I scaled down to mostly just bike path riding. Reason being is I have a ton of paths and I don't need to be on the road. And quite honestly, even though if I'm right, I'm still going to be dead if I get hit by a car. So any case, I just want to go out there and have a good time and enjoy it. There's still a lot of cycling events. Like charity rides and races and so forth are still going forward, but they did see a pretty decline of attendance, but that's going to through the last year or two. But this year we saw a little bit of a bump. So I think you're going to see more people engaging into the community portion of it versus the racing portion of it. But it may be different in every market. Please comment either in the chat if you're watching this replay. Comment below if it's what's been working in your cycling community, and please share for sure. And lastly, the 4 top big topics. Strategic partnerships. So like we said, like muck off going into QBP. That's strategic. And there's going to be a lot more of this going on. A lot of companies that find themselves, they may have been competitors, may not be competing anymore. Or find more common threads that we need to help each other out to either provide products to bike shops, or more shops working together to do events or community. And we've already seen that on the ground level with those local shops. I mean, I could have a bike shop right across the street and we'll be the best of buds. Back in the 90s, we would hate each other. So that environment has completely changed in a lot of cases, not all, but a lot of cases. So a lot of companies are starting to buddy up a little bit. Will Trek and Specialized get together? Most likely not. But when you're looking at some other companies, maybe smaller brands, and this is where we kind of saw in the 90s too, where Trek they acquired, but it was a partnership with some of these brands like Gary Fisher, Greg LeMond, Bontrager, there's they picked up like 5 or 6 different brands, and some of those were like, oh, we want a partner, and some of them were like, you're acquisitioning us. So, but I think in this particular state of market that we're in, especially in the States, that a lot of companies might be working with each other, also working with other companies abroad. So if they have a partnership with a company in Canada for warehousing inventory and so forth and helping stuff shift around, believe me, they're going to get creative as much as possible to kind of sustain the damage and already they've already endured, and then try to manipulate or partnership with companies, and even with the companies that are producing the bikes for them, where they stiff arm them during the COVID, where like you need to buy or have us make X amount, or your orders get down the line. That's how we got too much inventory, because there were a lot of those companies were leveraging the demand, like, you know, Specialized, you got to build so much of this. Trek, you got to buy so much of this, or your orders get put down the line, we'll build it for somebody else, that kind of thing. So they're on their heels too, because when you look at the Bicycle Retailer Industry News latest article about Giant and Merida owns 30 to 35% of Specialized. So that's a good reflection of how Specialized is holding up. They're probably fine, but as a company, they've done some restrictions to cut off some limbs to help themselves out, closing various experience centers, which was in the news, a couple offices and so forth. And so they're shrinking down. Oh, crap lovers, as I call them. And same as, you know, Giant, which produces a lot of bikes, probably Trek, and various others. And they're not all in Taiwan. They've actually they've moved their warehouses and facilities to Vietnam and Cambodia as well as some in China. So it's kind of, you know, that reporting of them being down in the last quarter is definitely being reflective of how their behavior is going to be towards these companies. They're going to ask to have product made. More flexibility. More timeline adjustments. Oh, don't ship it to this warehouse, send it up to Canada or Mexico, or send it to the European market. They're going to be more flexible, not hardline of doing those things. I'm not an expert of it, but I know people that have been in those circles, and that's kind of the perspective of what's been trickled down. So call it muddy water if you will, but that's what it is. That's what I'm seeing. In any case, that's pretty much the big topic news-ish that's being generated in the last week or two, and therefore we're hoping for the best. We're licking our wounds from the season, and hopefully these companies will be, I hope they're strong enough to get through these disruptions and learn the golden rule that basically build stuff for people what they want, not force what they think they should have. Come on, listen to the bike shops. Listen to the customers. Like, I don't need that $10,000 bike. Can you bring in an entry-level bike for $500 that's actually decent and it has warranties and all that other stuff that come with it? Can you do that? So those are the kind of the questions that are going to be going up the line, and I'm sure they're being heavily discussed in many boardrooms in many companies. So in any case, well, there's that. All right. Whew. That was a big little jibber jabber. I've made up way too many more topics on the next one, or bullet points, so to try to keep me on time, I have 3 pages. Insane of stuff. Any case. Also, just wanted to note that it's a weird thing, asking for money. I'm not asking for money. I mean, I do get paid through AdSense and so forth to support this channel and support my endeavors of doing this. One of those things is Amazon affiliates. And if you shop on Amazon, I do have a Amazon store. I do have like the latest pick, basically, of products that are like on sale, that kind of thing, and various other parts and tools and so forth that I suggest using. And within those particular categories, yeah, I mean, it's something pretty cool that if you check that out, go through, and even if you don't buy the product that I suggest and you find something else that fits your needs better or your grocery list, the cookie trail, a lot of people don't know this, the cookie trail lasts for like 24 hours, whatever you end up buying. I get a little kick. So that's a good opportunity for you to get something, and I get something to help support me doing what I'm doing. So please, if you do any Amazon shopping, just start off with Amazon store first and go from there and do your weekly purchasing, and I will be a little bit better off and you get your stuff. And I do have suggestions there in that for you to review. And I will, the weekly deals, I'll be updating those on a weekly basis. The things I see out there like, oh, that's a pretty good price on that. So in any case. Anyway, thank you for being a part of this, or just watch my stuff, and that's also contributing. I'm not here to really beg for money. I don't, super chats and all that, which a lot of influencers like to try to produce. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's great. But I'm not here to ask for that. I'd rather have you get something, and obviously I get something on a little bit of cut on the side. So in any case, and by doing that, that definitely will support all of us doing, support your bike habit and support my, habit of working on bikes. All right, let's dive into the chat here before I go to my next segment, see if what you guys are talking about. All righty. Oh, what kind of bike sales and service? Oh, you must be in Canada. Nice. Need qualified bike mechanics. Yes. Through working at Retail Toolkit, which was a software program, we had 2 Canadian companies that used our software, and I had great experiences of talking to lads and the gals up there of helping you manage your inventory. And your seasons were intriguing to me because they're vastly different than mine down here in the States. But it was really fun of those experiences. But yeah, that would be definitely a good place to go. More on the warmer Victoria, I found was really nice, but I'm not, there's a lot of good places in Canada to live. I know I'm not gonna, the ocean is kind of, I've been in the arid climate for so long, the ocean would be kind of nice to be for a while until I got burned out of that and moved back to dry desert. Awesome. Oh, apply Shimano. Yeah, I can't believe QBP and J&B are still around. Used to be great closeout deals with J&B. Yeah, back in the 90s, J&B was kind of like the 7-Eleven of bike parts. It was kind of like you knew you're paying a little extra, but you can get it pretty quick. They did have like a two-day, or they would deliver product for free from their warehouse. We were in Denver and they had a warehouse, so it was pretty close to where we're at in Parker. And within the front range, they had a pretty good footprint of where they had this individual drive out stuff twice a week, and you get parts pretty quick without paying additional shipping and so forth. And they were an interesting company. They had, I think, 5 or 6 warehouses across the nation at the time. They may have more now. I never really kept up on how big they are. I did talk to them at the show recently, and they kind of have the same feel and jive and vibe of the J&B of the 90s. So it's kind of like, it almost kind of has like an undertone of, the back rack pack days of Vegas, being kind of like, are they just a money front business? You just, I don't know. Maybe it's just how they, some of the people are from Florida. A lot of the CEOs and so forth are down there. So nothing bad, in that perspective. It definitely had a different feel than Quality Bike Supply, had a different kind of a professional vibe to it than J&B. But it worked with both of them over the years. And they've all did their own power grabs and struggles between each other. I buy from Jenson's a lot now because they are direct to consumer. They sometimes keep the prices down quite a bit. And I'm also leveraging 365 Cycles, which is a bike shop, but they're using the QBP's direct to consumer portal. They get a kick, but by promoting it, whatever, it comes out of a quality warehouse, but direct to consumer, and they get a percentage. They like to drop their prices down sometimes on a lot of products, where I've found for like boxed housing and like bread and butter stuff I would use for repairs and chains and so forth would be a lot cheaper for me, more than I would if I bought from, got an account from QBP or J&B. But I don't have to do any contracts. I don't have to do any minimum orders. I don't have to pay $400 to get hit free freight. It's usually 50 bucks. So I call that sanity tax, and I don't buy a lot. So therefore, that inventory is very minimal. So it doesn't really behoove me to add on that stress. But for a lot of shops there to be able to leverage that do more high volume or more volume and so forth. But man, if I had a bike shop now, I'd be definitely leveraging that Quality Bike Supply direct-to-consumer portal and just make my own huge website to get that's passive income for them, which you can do without doing that. And I can go up. The next bit is going to talk about that as bike shops, but that's a little teaser there for you for sure. And yeah, for being around, kind of crazy, right? Although I think EVP did close down a warehouse or two, and they've had some challenges like everybody else for sure. Oh yeah, sales and service had to stock up from HLC while they were still having a muck off in stock. Oh yeah, so since they're switching from HLC, which is another vendor, which I guess I'm not in that mix with all the vendors that are out now because I never used them per se, unless it's Holly. But it's because I don't buy from them, I don't really pay that close attention. I mean, I know the brands or the companies I worked with back in the 90s and when I was in the regular shop, brick and mortar shop, yes. But the HLC, that was interesting because they are closing a couple of their warehouses. Apparently they got a pretty decent sized footprint, and now they're shrinking their warehouses down, which is a sign of the times. Let's just put it that way. And losing a brand like that is probably one of the more decent sellers for them. But then again, who knows? Maybe they also have their statement, which I believe is in quality in Bicycle Retailer, of that is they are reducing some of their brands. So it may have not that they lost muck off, that they decided to cut muck off. Okay. Anyway, who knows? I mean, they're pretty tight-lipped about that. They don't want to burn too many bridges, but maybe they were like, yeah, your particular product line is not doing as much as we were expecting, X amount of units. We need to put that money in towards something else going forward. So that could have led to what the move is to Quality Bike Supply. So you see all these little things, and I mean, if you put them together, if you have the time, which a lot of us don't, and some of us don't even give a damn. They're just like, we don't even think about it. Like, I'm an avid rider, and I don't care where my stuff comes from as long as I can get it. As long as my bike mechanic can get it, we're good. So a lot of this back end industry stuff kind of falls on deaf ears, but it does kind of affect you because when you go to buy that next set of tires and they're 20 to 30 bucks more per tire than they were a month ago or last time you purchased them, that hits you in the wallet pretty hard, especially on consumables on bikes. Tubes, tires, chain lubes, cables and housing, then you get into bar tape, saddles and all that, and it kind of expands. All that stuff goes up, and then that price tag or that that cart ticket gets pretty expensive on Amazon or eBay or what have you, that kind of thing. So there alludes to that for sure. Most of the legacy bike shops in my city would be going broke without e-bike sales. Absolutely. That is, a lot of shops are that way. Even corporate stores like REI, the specialized corporate stores, which is N-Cycle, Trek corporate stores, also the Mike's Bikes, which is Pond Holdings corporate stores, I'm sure are very leveraging e-bikes as well. But then you've seen a lot of local shops that converted to more e-bike heavy, where honestly, a lot of people did not like the e-bike thing when it first hit. I mean, the cycling industry was pretty snootish about it. And now they're like, well, they understood and embraced it, and then they realized there's a community that hasn't been catered to. And the thing is us in the States, we can be dumb sometimes because this was already working in the European market, and the companies like Trek and Specialized going, well, it's working there. We need to bring that in the United States, and we're just like still backwards and not realizing what it would change in our environment. And here we are, where it alludes today. And good, bad, or otherwise, how you feel about it for sure. All right. Oh, I lost track of my chat here. Hold on here. Yeah, sales and service. Time to adapt to new technology. Well, it's always been the case, but this is just like been a flood of it, and it's kind of hard to keep up. But you do have to designate individuals that are good in your shops that want to tackle on the e-bike service portion of it and become techs, and then you need to be able to pay them because that's the talent that not everybody has, and therefore you need to provide the sales to offset the costs of labor, because labor is now gone up because it's costing the bike shops to have those service departments for the finer tech training and so forth. Oh, okay, sales and service, that's a good question. Do you think that the legacy brands can continue to keep pushing their dealers into debt with inventory requirements going into the new economic, a new economy? That's a good one. We're in a new economy. Whatever. It may not be great, but it's new. Yes, no, they will not have that leverage anymore because even their own shops that they have, that they own, like Trek and Specialized and Pond, are hurting and they're closing, quite a few of them. So they are feeling pain. In other words, since they are retracting their actual retail footprint, as they're going to be relying back onto their dealers again to help them sell stuff. So that partnership, I'm sure the conversations are way different from a bike shop owner to those particular brands that are helping the bike shop out more of less minimum orders, less quantities, better pricing, whatever they can do to represent their product. Because guess what? There's 10 other brands that are going to be more than happy to help you out. And apparently, it's been sounding for the last year and a half, Giant has been just doing everything they can to take help out dealers and so forth. I've had several dealers praise them, like, wow, that's usually not the case. But it is turning. The biggest one is going to be the biggest change, and this is going to be a shocker if it does come to fruition, is Specialized is really going to be changing their tune. They've been really known as an industry of pressurizing a lot of inventory in a lot of different bike shops over the decades because they were a very strong marketing brand. And it was kind of like it's kind of like your high-end Porsche attitude. And not to say that's going to change in their marketing and their stigma and all that, but they're probably going to be a little better about their dealer agreements because they just got cut off in Boulder by Pond. I mean, there is some cutthroat stuff going on out there between the big companies. But in any case, that's just the tip of the iceberg, and that's going to continue for the next year or so because we're not seeing any kind of change in the direction. Not like in next year I'm going to be like, oh, I'm making so much money now I can go buy that $5,000 bike I want. I don't think that's going to happen that quick. I've heard like through different perspectives that to get to that point again where we were is going to take like a good decade. So hopefully not. I hope not, but if it takes that long, and again, this is all my opinion piece, but it could. And if it takes that long to dig out, those companies are going to, it's going to be a lot of adjustments for a lot of those companies. Scott, thank you for joining in. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Love your suggestions on products. My bikes does too. Oh, that's great. Yeah, Scott's one of my customers locally. He has a couple light speeds, and I like working on titanium nice bikes. They're older, but I mean, hey, they work great. I love getting those things to purr. I mean, it's just fun to be able to get something that's it's like working on an old Porsche and getting the thing just like running like humming, which I'm not a combustion engine guy whatsoever, but that's what I would assume that's what it would feel like. Oh yeah. Sales and service snow biking is a growing trend. Oh, okay. With fat bikes. Yeah, fat tire bikes is interesting to me because when we had our stint in Michigan, Colorado, we have very light and polite winters compared to other areas. We do have some sunnier days and we don't have accumulating snow. So for the front range area, not necessarily the mountains, but the front range area, you can get on the bike paths and they're plowed and what have you, and the snow melts in a couple days and do riding. But when we went to Michigan, like, oh, that's a whole different story. So a little taste, not as much as up in Canada, but I'm sure those are some decent markets, especially if you don't have anything else to do, which I found in Michigan. Like, they didn't have ski hills and so forth. They had a little bit, but not too much. So people just kept riding bikes. So they have like their winter bikes and their spring bikes, and they're really pretty big in cycling. It was pretty interesting. And the environment really destroyed bikes too, because it was really humid and a lot of road salt and so forth. Okay, boy, you guys are really in the chatting. This is great. I'm just going to get through a few more of these before I go into the next portion of this, which is fine to over, because I don't think I have too many questions to answer. I have a couple. That's okay. That's fine. We'll just talk about industry stuff till I'm blue in the face. Any case, let's see what else here. All right, snow bike, got taught to that. Nowadays, yeah, Randy has a good point there. It's sad that nowadays I rather a chance of flat. You get a flat that you sell them a new bike. A flat is more profitable. Yeah, the $15-20 that you charge for labor to switch out a flat, or if a tubeless setup, you're like uppers to 50 or what have you, could be a little more profitable than that bike has been sitting on the floor for 2 years and hasn't sold, and you discounted at your cost because you just need to get it off the floor. It is kind of sad in that perspective, but and that also reminds me of a note, and I'll get into that about people. I think you're going to see a lot of the corporate stores are going to stop trying to upsell their service work that comes in the door, because that is a bad performance. And that's why I'm in business. Not why, but that's a good portion of why I'm in business, of that stigma of somebody rolling a bike that's 20 years old and they're just like, service guy has been trained, no fault of his own, has been trained to go and try to sell them a new one. And then alienating basically the customer, and they walk out the door most of the time. So in any case. All right. Oh, thanks, sales and service. I'm trying to be down to earth perspective without being hippie-ish. Not too down and dirty. Anyway, I had longer hair after COVID because I was afraid my daughter wouldn't recognize me if I got a haircut for a while. So that's why me and the bike farmer look the same, and a lot of people got us confused. But other than that, we are completely different people, and we are both in the cycling industry, but we're in completely different markets and completely different business models for sure. But good to him. He decided to jump ship and just do YouTube full time. Hopefully that's a good decision for him. It's part of my business, but I have a lot of irons in the fire to be diversified, because with my experience, you don't put all your eggs in any basket, because you never know when that basket gets tipped over and then you're like crying because you no longer have a business to work with. All right. Oh, Josh, thanks for chiming in. Precision e-bikes. That's my brother on the e-bike side. Yeah, he carries Gazelle now and Bosch equipment. Yep, Pond bikes. Yep, yeah, they're part of that. You can't really. Pond is an investment company. It's huge, huge. They own 50-ish brands, maybe a little less now because they've kind of shelved a couple lines. But they also are in the automotive industry, like Porsche and I think Ferrari and a couple others, and a distributor for Volkswagen. They're big. They're a Dutch company. I have a video in my library kind of looking over them and that kind of thing. Can't really fault them, but they do. They carry Cervelo, Santa Cruz, some other big brands, Cannondale, which you still see in the tours and so forth. So the money is still going towards the cycling environment. They entrusted a lady, I forget her name, I am sorry, to be a CEO, overseer of the Pond Holdings bike shops, which is called Mike's Bikes. They've kind of, there's an acquisition and they have like 10 stores now or something, maybe more than that. Basically, same thing, corporate stores for them. So it is what it is. But if you're getting good product from them, they have product and the prices are outrageous, and they're able to absorb some of the tariff confusion and pains, by all means. I mean, to keep your business going and be able to produce what is selling is the e-bikes, and Josh can probably attest to that. Scott, yeah, I try to keep those bikes purring, as well as all other ones I work on, for sure. I got another bike in my stand this week that from a YouTuber watcher. She brought up her bike from Lafayette, which is about 30, 40-minute drive, which still blows me away. And also, I'm just so humbled. Let's just do a side note on this. I'm just so humbled that people entrust. I'm just privileged to be entrusted with some of my customers' bikes. I mean, it's just, thank them for entrusting me to work on their stuff and willing to come to me in a small garage shop in a neighborhood of all places and not go closer to them, and they're entrusting me to work on their stuff. I take pride in that, and that's just great. I've built up a great customer list, a customers, community. It's more of a community to me than just customers. It's not just dollars and cents and how many I can do. It's the quality, not over quantity. That's just weird to say. But anyway, I just wanted to put a shout out to all those who have supported me over the years and continue to do so. It's awesome. I appreciate it. Johnny, love fat bikes. Surly's. Surly Wednesday. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Okay, getting done it. Okay, getting down here. All right. Yeah, sales and service, customers that ride the zero assist, they kind of chat my hide too. It's like, you're not riding a bike, but then maybe you're just using it for commuting. But then again, you're blowing past me on a bike path going 40 miles per hour when you should be 15 miles per hour. Is kind of dumb. But anyway, they're going to have those jack wagons out there that's going to ruin it for make some other people all mad and be very vocal about it. On our bike paths here, they've actually put speed like they do on the roads to kind of, the speed limit's 15 miles per hour top, so chill the hell out, please, so you don't hurt anybody, because there's people walking dogs and things like that and so forth. Okay. Anyway, thanks for hanging in there. Pretty solid view count. Awesome. All right. So the other one here is, because it got a lot longer on topic, I should cut this down, or should I save it? Nah, I really want to talk about this because it really is valid for what we're looking into currently, coming up to the last week of September. So let me just do a timestamp so I know what to reference. Okay. Temperatures are dropping. Independent bike shops are pivoting their focus from sales-driven summer season to more service-oriented and strategic off-season projects. Fill in the blank. There's a million different things that a lot of bike shops try to do in the wintertime, as well as cyclists. So it's still going to be 70 to 80 degrees this week. So it's really hard to talk about, but it needs to be talked about. And I tried to hit this home a couple weeks ago because when you're in the heat of the moment, either riding bikes or working in a shop, you need to think about the off season. Some places don't have off season, so this probably excludes that far and few between. And if you're in the season about ready to start, which, the Australia, New Zealand, South America, and also Texas is probably finally going to cool down. I was in Las Vegas. It was still pretty heated, but the window of riding in the morning was a little bit longer. Versus if you're not done by your ride by 7 a.m., you're like a crispy critter. Those markets are off season, and for me, leveraging used products and selling products on my website through eBay and various others. I've had sales through my off season, which is their in season. So keep in mind, that's a great way to flush out your variability or vulnerability of off season business for sure. So let's see here. The first big headline, I do have some big bullet points here. So we're going to talk about this for the remainder of the next hour. So unfortunately, if you put in a question in the chat or a question in the forum, I might not be able to get to them today. But I will definitely save them for next week and shorten up the news. And I think this is a very, very valid point that I need to really talk about. Reason because bike shops and cycling, you got to think about it, especially in our state of the state. Okay, so the big headliner topic, one of the main ones, is going back to inventory, aggressive inventory management and sales. So talking about bike shops that have vendors like Trek Specialized, Giant, whoever, they've already are in the window of commitment for next season's product lines. They're probably a little bit softer than what they have been before, knowing the state of the state, and hopefully they've been a little more understanding and not so leveraging their dealers to take X amount of dollars for X amount of categories. And when you're talking about categories, some of these companies have a lot of categories, and especially dumb categories that don't fit your market, which is weird that they would force that, because that product is going to go in your store, sit there, and then be discounted, which discredits the actual value of the brand. Dumb, but they don't see that. They just say, you shop that does not sell any mountain bike stuff whatsoever, you're going to carry X amount of mountain bike stuff, and then that includes mountain bikes, helmets, gloves, and clothing, and especially clothing is an eyesore for a lot of bike shops because it's just don't make money on it. You're going to carry it. You're going to be committed to carry that, for example, and then your market doesn't buy it, and therefore when it's time, when you're eligible to discount it, then you're going to discount it to try to get your money back out of it, to have that dealer agreement of the 4 or 5 categories that you have to fulfill for that company. If you're working in one of these shops and carry one of these lines, you don't even have to say what line it is. We can probably get an idea what it is. You just say, have they been or have they not been a little more flexible to work with independent bike dealers? I'd love to hear what you have to say, either put it in the chat or put it in the comments if you're watching this on the replay, because I'd love to hear those comments, see if they've actually changed their tune, or is it just more of the same and they're changing a lot of other stuff, but their attitude towards independent bike dealers are the same. I would like to know that. But because that directly affects, you got your buyers, you put your buyer's hat on if you're a small shop, and you're like, okay, what am I willing to commit into the next season? What do I see in my market? Because you're the only expert in your own market. I mean, how those companies may tell you should sell, and it's usually partially what they need to get rid of, or they've committed to and made a missed decision, and all of a sudden you're the pipeline for them to get rid of that product you're paying for their mistakes. I've seen that happen over the years. So I think right now they're going to be catering the inventory to be less, and they're going to try to hit the product to get more of a profit out of the gate. So if they're selling less, they have more profit, less discounting, so less investment, so they can put money into other things, more narrow and deep, essentially. That's what they're going to be doing, which is going to directly affect the bike shops. Well, how's the bike shop is going to address that? And I got 3 things that all bike shops should think about. Coming from as an inventory manager myself, anytime, reach out to me through either Justin@NoGuyBicycles.com, or chat on a video or whatever, or comment on one of my videos. I've had a pretty good vast experience with inventory. I may not know your specific inventory. I may not know the current market of the inventory in your particular market. That's kind of a double play on words. But I might be able to give you some insights to help you make those decisions and be less damaging going into the next year or so. Because in a weird way, a lot of us have been around a long time, have seen a lot of this, but at some points of it, but not all at the same time. It's kind of like a colossal train wreck reaction, and it's okay. And then it's affecting all the other different parts of it. So the first part here, is identifying and segment your overstocked inventory. What didn't sell? What categories did you not get the right stuff? Did you put too much money into it? Did you get a sell-through rate on it or not? Mostly is overstocked inventory. What overstocked inventory that some of your wholesalers may have that may work in your market better? Take advantage of those sales. Take advantage of maybe buying more inventory in that fits your particular business model in your market better. That's one thing I learned real quick in a hot minute working at Retail Toolkit. We had bike shops, like I mentioned before, from Florida to Canada and back and forth. So, and all those markets are different at different times of the season. So when you're helping manage their inventory and so forth in the program and do those adjustments, were different variables. And it was conversations like a partnership. I knew how the program worked and I know how you can pull those levers, but I really heavily relied on the bike shop owners to tell me what their market is to help them use the platform to their advantage. Because they were the experts of their market. Not for 1 second I thought I was the expert of the inventory in their market. It's the other way around. It's like, you're the expert. You know what was selling. You can pull reports and figure out what's selling and then you can anticipate what's going on in your community, which is another big aspect of it, of going forward into the next season. So what that relates to cyclists, well, if you're looking for that one specific tire, they may not have it. Or that one specific sealant, they may not have it, but they will have something, but it might not be the flavor that you're looking for. That's okay. It gets you back on the road. It's okay. You don't have to be the drink of the Kool-Aid of every flavor that you've bought. It's, a lot of, they spend billions of dollars of trying to tell you that their product is the one for you and you drink that Kool-Aid. It's okay to change. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You can go back to it at a later date when it's either more available or price point correct. This is not going to stay the same forever. But in the interim, in the next year or two, all of us are going to have to accept some change. So that's part of that, identifying the inventory and what the overstocked was and what categories too. It's not just like we've had overstocked on chains. It's like, what chains? Is it the 9-speed chains? The 8-speed chains? Is it the brand? That kind of thing. But most likely it's just, a lot of people at this point are just going to be looking for a price. If you have it, and what price? Because they're being very mindful of their economics at home. So that's going to be a big, that's across the board. And that's not even in the United States. That's like globally. That's a global issue right now for sure. Going to the next part. Okay, so you have a lot of inventory from the year or so. And this is what a lot of shops, manufacturers, you probably already have this if you're a bigger store. If you're a small store just new, or big new store, which probably is not happening, but you need to implement a tiered discount strategy. The toilet flush, whoosh, that's one strategy there. Basically, you constantly discount it until it eventually goes away. I worked at Performance Bike for like a hot 3 months, and they had a flush table, and I was like, what do you mean flush table? What the hell is that? Basically, you keep discounting it, and eBay came out with a flush option. I forget what they call it, but it's a way that you can put a price on there and say you want like $50 for this crankset, let's say. That's a used crankset you found in one of your parts bins in the back. It's good. You're probably not going to sell it. It's off season. You really get some money out of it versus nothing. Clean it up, make sure it's, completely functional, fine, all those things, picture it, list it on eBay. And one of you that sells a whole bunch of stuff on eBay as eBay business knows this, but they have that new function, is the flush function to a bottom line item. So it's kind of a set and forget, which is really awesome because I don't have to go back every freaking week to what did I price that at or whatever? You can preset that. That damn thing works well. They just rolled that out like a month ago, and the products I put on there, not, depending on the price range, of course, but you can set that, and it gets to, $2 off every week or $5 off every week until you get that bottom line threshold. Okay, I'm not willing to sell less than $25. Keep in mind, eBay charges a good, It feels like 20% at the end of the day, because it kind of is, because they tally in the taxes and the shipping as a percentage that they're going to take away from you. It's a dirty trick, but price appropriately and you'll be fine. Don't get angry with it. Just accept it and move forward. And then you could price it accordingly. And people buying off of eBay understand this for the most part. That's why the price is sometimes a little bit higher, but they have it's a buyer's protective platform. They have a lot of rights more than the sellers, quite honestly. But in any case, so going back to flush or discounting strategy. So depending on what the product is it something going to keep going forward? If it's a category like, say, bike shorts, you're not going to carry clothing anymore. Done with clothing, not going to happen. Not going to carry all this clothing from all these brands. It didn't sell for me. It's a flush. And whatever that flush is, may be negative, but at least it's out of your store in somebody else's hands and you got some money out of it. So it's basically, it's a loss. You write that off, that kind of thing. So you got to have a plan for that. That's an inventory, help plan with your accountant. So if it's the same person with the same different hats, yes. But that's a plan that you need to strategize now while you're still seeing stuff, what's selling and what's not selling. Run reports. You got to season in of the new economics, and you got to start doing adjustment. It doesn't have to be aggressive. You can start off light and polite, which is really recommended, but something needs to change, especially if you're heavy on inventory, that thing. And on the last one, on this one for management and sales, we're going to talk about basically executing target marketing campaign. What does that mean? Like, I have email lists going every week, every other day. I got Facebook posts. I got Instagram posts. I got mailers, if you want to still push paper to people's doors. If your market is that, it is that. I mean, I know retirement communities, older communities, they don't do anything on social media, but they get a flyer in the mail, sure enough, or they read that magazine, they're like, oh, I need that kickstand. There you go. You got to have a plan, right? You probably have a plan and been executing a plan. If you're a brand new shop, you got to figure out what your market is going to be susceptible to and whatever that market is. It may not be just local. My market is not just local. The service part of it, yes, because that's obvious, because somebody's not going to ship their bike to me from Florida for me to do a tune-up on and ship it back to them. I would tell them, no, that's not smart, because shipping it back and forth could cause more damage than anything else. But in any case, that's a different side point. But when you're talking about marketing, so and that could be an expansion of what you want to market with. Marketing could be selling stuff on eBay. Quite simple. Get it at eBay store. A lot of bike shops have done this. They've used it to flush out a lot of dead stuff or trade-ins or part swaps or whatever from the service department. Quite honestly, it has helped driven several shops in the off season to keep money coming in the door without having to lay off everybody. So there's a lot of perspectives of that. So that's one of marketing. Marketing, making some YouTube videos. Not an intent to become affiliated and have a passive income and that kind of thing, but put your events. If you have like a bike tech night or a ladies' night for cycling or make little videos, either promoting it and so forth, even in the shorts. And there's a whole huge platform you can leverage. Here's a little gold nugget for you for marketing. Me just doing YouTube videos and not caring, I'm not living on the AdSense and all that, which the Bike Farmer's trying to do, or affiliate links and all that. Yes, that's like seed money for down the road. Maybe it works, but I'm not banking on it. But what YouTube has done for me is driven half of my service to me locally. That's crazy, right? So the few videos showing how that I do tune-ups, the attentive care that I detail bikes, wax chains, take care of customer bikes, fittings, all those things is being featured by the experience of sharing it on YouTube. You can use any other platform, Instagram, Facebook Marketplace, but are you leveraging it for that? Or are you just putting up, oh, I got one of these and I need you to buy it. Here, buy this. I'll feature this tool later. It's interesting. It's a chain checker. Anyway, you know, build a community, not just sell to the community. I mean, yeah, post stuff to sell. Don't get me wrong, but it was all about the blogs initially, at the beginning. So thinking at that as a marketing campaign. And guess what? How much is that going to cost you? Nothing except for some time. So your sales associates are just sitting there doing nothing, keeping that bench warm while they're waiting for a customer to come in the door, which may not come in that day. They could be working on social media posts, talking to a mechanic, getting experiences out there at the shop. What do we do about this event? What should we carry on this bike for this event you're riding? What should we watch out for this e-bike because we had a bad motor or whatever? I'm sorry, there's so much content that I come up with a day. I only write down about 2% of it and only shoot about 1.5% of it. There's so much stuff in the cycling realm that you can, I mean, I'm not treading on anybody's community whatsoever. Bike Farmer and I and everybody else could all have channels and still add 100x more channels and still not going to affect how our communities are being built up. Such a huge audience of people wanting to learn how to work on bikes, fix up their older bikes, work on their newer bikes, all those things. So there's an opportunity where you can just do little videos here and there. It doesn't have to be long. You don't have to do longer content like I do and commit that much time. You can do shorts right off the phone or the reels right off the phone real quick. I know a lot of shops do that. And I'm sure they have a pretty good money income retention from other directions than just directly from the platform itself. So that being said, executing a marketing plan, campaigns could be several different things compiling of all those different aspects of it. Or you leverage influencers, guys and gals like me to help promote your brand. Well, that'd be a little humdinger. I don't have time to do a YouTube channel. Well, Josh at Precision E-Bike, I'll just come down to your shop for a couple days here and there, take some videos. We'll do some talk about particular motors and so forth and your service and so forth. I'm leveraging my community to help your business. And sure enough, I already did one of those videos. And yes, he's gotten some customers from that or from me or from local, but it definitely helps. And did it cost a lot? No. Well, I just wanted him to just interview him, so it didn't cost him anything. So anyway, I mean, you know, some influencers out there is looking for content, interviews, other than that, and so forth. I'm one of them, but there's other ones too. And some people do charge for that. And you know, some of them will charge, and maybe they have warrant. I mean, when I talked to Josh at Precision E-Bike, I had like 5,000, 3,000, subs. I'm still not a big channel. I am a part of the 3% club though. But in any case, being hit in over 10,000. But that still doesn't put me in the 100 to 150,000 sub range, that kind of thing. And would be any different? Maybe, maybe not. But the thing is basically what it comes down to. If you get a character like me that vibes with your shop and you want to be featured, and if it costs a little bit, maybe $100, $500, whatever it is, whatever you're marketing, it's still a tax write-off, that kind of thing. It would help your business, and also that becomes an evergreen video that you can also leverage on your own platforms if you want to, and so forth. And so it's like one of those things that just doesn't die and when you're done. It has legs to it. It goes. So I talked a lot about that, but because I'm passionate about it, and it's actually really benefited me because I tried the Facebook page. It does okay. I mean, if you're watching me on Facebook, I'm telling you, it only does okay. I worked on it really hard for several years and it still did okay. I started doing YouTube and that thing blew up. So whatever fits your either style, your character, whatever, YouTube might be not the place for you. Maybe Instagram, maybe TikTok, maybe Reels, whatever, or whatever the next one that comes down the line might be the one that works for your shop and your marketing platform better. But a lot of the content you can just bleed out on all of them. Like, put one video and put it on all of them and just kind of see where it goes. And then you're leveraging it and not just selling stuff, you're actually building that community. And that community, guess what, will support you. I mean, how many of you have decided to go on Amazon and check out some bike parts and decided to go, you know, grocery shopping for the week, or, you know, oh, I need to get a dog collar, or, you know, something other way different. I saw one, there's like a laundry list of somebody's grocery list on there. I don't see who buys it. I just see the stuff that got commissioned on it. And it's kind of funny, like, it's just stuff you see. Or I get really cool insights because like, oh, they decided not to go get this tool, but they decided to go get that tool. It's like, oh, maybe I should go check out that tool. Maybe, you know, maybe I'm just being a tool promoting this other tool. Anyway, bad dad joke, any case. So yeah, that's, you know, inventory. You gotta, it'll make or break your business and so forth. But we're gonna go right into what's driving our community bike shops and keeping in business. And some of us still have hair. Some of us have definitely pulled out most of it because the season was just crazy, too bizarre. So we're going to go with the next big topic is service department becoming the priority. So service departments for the last 2 decades, especially with corporate stores, are like the redheaded stepchild. I can say that because I am redheaded, used to be, and I used to be a stepchild. So anyway, one of those situations where they were just kicked to the side, and even though they were barking, there was always pushed away. I worked in shops like that, where you go to the owners like, oh, you have so much opportunity, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to put that much effort into it or pay your guys to do that. I'd rather go, you know, they saw the other low-hanging fruit. Well, sure shit, that low-hanging fruit is gone. There is none. Only in the service department there can be low-hanging fruit. So one, you got to identify, and you probably have, if anybody's in any bike shop right now, notice that service is gone out the door, crazy, bizarre. Unless you're some unique anomaly or you're a corporate store and people are just like, yeah, I'm going to go to somebody else to work on my bikes because you've gotten a bad rap. Not all corporate stores have bad mechanics. I swear a lot of them have really good mechanics because they were acquisitioned by bike shops that were decent and now they're corporate stores. And I can't not blame those individuals that work at corporate, and because they're getting benefits and a salary they can live on and vacation time, which a lot of bike shops I worked in, you didn't get that, including my parents. You got time off, but that was it. And, you know, we did get health insurance, but it was a trade-off. You know, it's like one of those things. But working for corporate, you get those insurances, and you're not going to be like, oh, in off season, you know, it's that kind of thing, most likely. So yes, service is an emphasis on a lot of small shops investing into their service department. Instead of just, you know, going crazy, listen to your crew. They're going to tell you, but they may not have all the insights either. Take it with a grain of salt, but definitely listen to your crew. They'll give you some insights, and then you can go down the rabbit hole of each one of those insights to figure out if is it the right change for your shop and community. Community is the key word here. Your cycling community is what you need to cater to, because they're the ones that are paying the money. Because if you're doing something or want to do like this fancy service package and you don't know it's going to be supported by the community, you wasted a whole bunch of time and training and money on a package that's not going to be utilized. That's just one small example, but there's a lot of other packages out there that you can dabble in and test. And if you haven't done this already, you want to test it for next season or test in the off season, send out questionnaires to your staff, to your community, your club groups. Would they be interested in doing this? I do it. I'm a small micro guy. I still ask my customers, well, you think you'd be interested if I did X, Y, and Z? Do you think this would be a market? But please be honest. Or is it something like, I don't really need that. I'd rather have you do this. And then you're like, oh, do that? I didn't think about that. So, there's all those things that there's so, like again, like I mentioned before, there's a huge umbrella what is the cycling industry. It's huge now. It's so much bigger than it was in the 90s. So if you're a bike shop that came from the 90s and still trying to navigate, it's like, I only could do this sliver of it. If I go any further than that, I lose my mind. It's just too much, and it's huge. So that's why you're seeing a lot of shops similar to mine, and also Josh at Precision E-Bike, that we have our own niche, and we don't go around that too far. We'll dabble a little bit in here and there, and if it's not like something we really want to do and what have you, because we have a set like pipeline of business through that niche that we don't really, if you do it right, you don't have to waver too much. But within that niche, though, you need to do some changes to capitalize on opportunities that your community might be looking for sure, or may not know and may need it, and that's something that you can cater to too, for sure. So under this prioritizing your service department, there's three things. Launch a proactive off-season service campaign. Okay, there's a lot of what that means. Discount your service in the off-season. Some shops don't want to do that. Some shops feel like they have to do that. Some shops, depending on your market, your competition, and so forth. Maybe it's service is nothing coming up we need to do, but there's other ways to market that off-season campaign. That campaign, it's marketing, right? Get your bike in. We can get it done and tuned up in a day or 2 days. So it could be a time thing for your community. It could be, it might be a dollar thing, or we have the parts still. Thing like, hey, better get your bike down here and tune up because we still have chains and tires and tubes. I mean, you can work that if you want, but there's opportunities you can do that. So it's one of those things. There's campaigns you can do. You can do it on eBay. You can do it on all the the freer ways of doing it. Social media aspects. You can do email blasts. Learn how to work on bikes, campaign, how to, fix a tubeless tire. If you ever wanted to, indulge in trying to teach the public how to do that, I'd suggest doing videos and not try to do that in person. But in any case, that's up to you. And it's like there's all, it depends on those. It's not always about discounting the value of the tune-up. I mean, a lot of people live that way. It has to be on sale. And I have customers like that. And I tell them like, okay, you're the long-time customer. You get the 20% off whenever, discount off a tune-up package, whatever the case may be. But my tune-up package has gone up. So it offsets that. So, looking at that, you can do maybe a special packages like, I did a level up tune-up package. Basically, you get a tune-up, but you get the next level up. For that, you get that price, like $100 tune-up, but you get the $150 tune-up. So you can play with it, or you identify some of your staff. Like this is Pete's special. Like he's the best known triathlon bike tune-up guy, and he has all these credentials and everything. You want your tri bike to be repaired by Pete. He is the guy. So poor Pete gets to work on tri bikes. But anyway, just kidding. Anyways, it's one of those things where you bring the value of your staff up front. Like, at the Trek store, like there's a guy named Jimmy. He's known. He's a good guy, been doing it for years. He is smart. I've worked with him side by side when I used to be at Lee's. I mean, he's known. And he's, if Trek was smart, they would feature Jimmy. Like, oh, get your bike worked on by Jimmy. He has X amount of years working on bikes. He will get your bike done right the first time, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different ways you can campaign it, but just don't have to just feel like you knee-jerk and have to discount. I mean, you can if you need to, and you feel like that's the way if you want to absorb it and work it that way, do it. But if you want to try some of these other things, you can. It's not going to cost you too much, except for a little bit of time of promoting and come up with a couple thumbnails. But other than that, it's just, you can really leverage those things and not have to, discount it. Anyway. Let's see, I just want to make sure our chat is not getting out of hand. I do monitor stuff, just FYI. Okay. Thank you, Polite Chihuahua. I'll try to remember that. I'm a bike mechanic. I don't speak well. Thank you though for correcting me, for sure. In any case, so when you're looking at campaigns in the off season, and this could, just don't think the off season, think going in, and some of those non-discounting campaigns can go into the in season too. So if Pete, the tri-bike expert, then you're like, feature him, but you can probably put a higher dollar amount on it. Like, oh, you need your bike tuned up before the event this week in June, your height of the season by Pete. We got a Pete special. It's $50 over the original price. But I mean, it's like, it's one of those things you can leverage. And those who do ride events, races and so forth, we're all cursed by procrastination. It's in our DNA. Everyone's DNA has a procrastination thing, and quirk, tweak, defect, whatever you want to call it. I have it, my wife has it, my daughter has it, my dog has it, everything, and if you set your shop up in your service department effectively, you can not necessarily take advantage of that, but you prepare for it. Therefore, you can take care of community and not stress your staff out, but also capitalize on the sales. There's a healthy balance in there. That's one of the things you need to think about going into next season by leveraging these campaigns in the off season. This is the time you can think about it, throw stuff on the wall, see if it sticks. Does it work? Do you think it works? Will it work in season? That kind of thing. Use it as your test case, time frame. And you can't do that in off season because bikes still need to be tuned up in the off season. They're there. That's why you do those promotions and the bikes come in. After last season, people are getting really conditioned that crap, things take a lot longer to get tuned up. Maybe I need to take advantage of that in the off season. Could be just a subtle reminder like, hey, before things hit the fan, get your bike in, okay? Because we got Pete. He's ready. He's all tooled up. We got our parts. We got stuff. We can get you taken care of for the beginning of the season. Get those extra bikes in here. That kind of thing. So you can leverage that for sure, big time. So yeah, that's enough on that one. I bet you're all just like, oh boy, can you just stop talking about that? The next part underneath the service department becomes the priority is optimizing service bay and inventory. Okay, this is all mechanics are like, we grovel about this. Oh, we got to like redo the tool wall. We got to go through the inventory and see if we can put chains and cassettes and prioritize, efficiency and stock levels. And that goes to like the inventory part, but also your bike shop, service department inventory is like ball bearings and end caps and how many cables and where are you putting those cables, and am I fighting with Johnny with those same box of cables, or those things. It's a quick questionnaire, 20-minute meeting with your staff, and you can just pick like 5 items, and in your either tools or inventory or used parts, if you leverage that, processes to help it become more efficient. It's best of time to do it now, because in 2 months from now, they've had enough beer and pizza. They've already forgot their frustrations, and then they're going into Christmas and already checked out for the holidays. So you want to do it now while it's still hot and fresh. Therefore, you can really kind of streamline and make it more efficient. And it doesn't have to be done today, but it needs to be written down today for tomorrow to be done. So those efficiencies are huge. Companies, corporates spend billions of dollars on efficiency testing their service like organization of selling products. My brother, he's a nurse. He was part of a company that would go into ERs, and the hospitals would pay X amount of dollars to have efficiency done within their ER. Same thing. We're kind of like bike doctors. Well, we are. And we're diagnosing, we're fixing, we're just, our cyclist community's lives are in our hands to making sure it's a safe bike. But it's those situations where you want to get the right tool to do the job right the first time, because the costs on that, either on your customer or your staff, is immense. So think about that too. But optimizing the service department tools, inventory, my tool wall has a hotbed, like it has a hot spots. And when I'm constantly reaching for something, I move it. And then at the end of the season, or I do at the beginning of the season, I just I don't strip everything down and put it all together, but I kind of clean everything up. And do I really need this here? Can I have something better here for me to make it a little bit quicker? And I'm a one guy in the garage, so I'm only my own enemy. But it's like one of those things where if you make it efficient for yourself, it may not be for every mechanic, but you can get we had at one bike shop, we had like a model of what the tool wall on each bench looked like, and it stayed the same with all the tool benches. So whenever you went to a different bench, you reached back and you're grabbing the chain checker. It's always in the same spot right here on each one. So it made it efficiency. So you're looking at that. It could be just one man band, one lady band, one person band shop. Efficiency is huge. It takes you 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. That time adds up. And if you're a business owner, one person business owner, time is your enemy. I mean, people will say I'm insane for using up 2 hours of my time during a work week trying, where I could be tuning up a bike and making twice as much and all that. But for me, I feel it's a community. I feel like this is what I want to do. Also, it gives me an opportunity to talk to all of you guys. So I find it as more of a benefit, not dollar-wise, but more as me doing what I'm doing and doing it right. And corrections and all that. So optimizing that service department is huge, and it's always been the case. I've worked in several different departments where I've revamped a lot of service departments, and then you got new tooling. Like what are you gonna do with all the e-bike stuff, all those tools that you just got in? Like, crap, does that have its own bench, or is it conformed into your current bench? All depends on your space. Who's working on it, all those things. They need to be addressed and thought about and all that kind of thing. And last but not least, but most important for any service department, invest in the staff training and skill development. I can't stress this more. Ignorance shows like egg on your face when you're with a customer when you don't know something or even know how to figure out how to do something. That customer will not come back to your shop. As a matter of fact, he'll tell 10 of their riding buddies to never go to your shop because you had that one new mechanic that may have not known better say something dumb or not correct or seemed not confident, what have you. You got to have your A team, and your A team has to be your whole team. So if anybody is a B or a C, you got to get them to an A, even if they just started last week or they've been there for 10 years. They need to be elevated. Reason being is we only have one opportunity to impress a customer when they come in the door. And that opportunity for this customer is every time. Needs to be consistent. You can't have a customer like, well, I go in there like 3 times and that one time was horrible. They may not come back. And again, they tell 10 more of their friends. So it's a tricky bit. It's horrible. It's a lot of money put up front, but in time. But you gotta, especially on your niche, if you're niche down on classic road bikes like mine, those guys better be watching a lot of my videos of how to work on Ultegra shifters and derailleurs and how to clean them up and get them to work again and not just replace them because they could be fixed. All those little tricks of the trades that I've acquired over the last 35 years. If that's your niche, you got to get them like knowing the stuff inside and out, because they'll alienate that one customer. They may have that 20-year-old classic, but you don't know if they have 4 $10,000 bikes at home and they're just using that one bike as a tester. That's happened to me. It's the funniest thing, because they'll be like, oh, this classic, it was a light speed. It wasn't a cheap bike, but it was like 25 years old light speed. And she had me do a tune-up on it, and it was her trainer bike. It sits on the trainer in the basement, or wherever they have their trainer. I'm assuming it's the basement. And lo and behold, she had like 2 other tri bikes and another training bike, and she had like 5 bikes. And then, once I did good on one, and then she just starts sending more and more and more. And then, her daughter's sending bikes here for me to work on when she's in town. And it's just like, the clubs that she's riding with, she's just sending. It's like just that one good experience, well-trained experience. Means experience, old, but could, that's it. And you got to train them on the new stuff. I mean, if you're niche, you got to know the Di2, you know how to work on the SRAM electronics. If you're doing anything with e-bike motors, you better be like the expert of it. It's like one of those things that you just, it's just, you can't just dabble in it when it comes to the service departments now, because right now that's what all your shops in your area, including corporate stores, are investing in their service department, because that's where only the money that they can see coming in, and they're investing into it. So you better be investing in it too, which you probably already have. But I just wanted to hit it on the head again, that what direction you want to go. Do you want to start bringing in wax chains? Make sure you watched all the videos on waxing chains and figure out what works best for your market and what you want to do with it. Do you want to carry some of your customer chains and hold them for them and do the swap outs, or do you want to just do the waxing at service? Do you want to do pre-wax chains? Do you want to do all that, or you just want to buy the new pre-wax chains from the chain companies direct from Connex? They have their own pre-waxed. I just saw KMC now has their own pre-wax chains. It's a thing. It's here to stay. You got to learn how to maintain it too. How do you tell that customer how to use that wax chain? Like, do you just put regular petroleum lube back on there, throw it on WD-40? No. There's specific chain lube that is wax from those companies. Like Silca has their drip version. It's the same wax, but emulsified by 10% water. That's what you want to be putting on that chain. So those are the little things. And sometimes those customers may ask dumb questions, but they already know the answer. They're just seeing if you know the answer. And it's just like, but once you win those customers, I've had some, first impressions to me, they're like, man, I got another squirrely one. And then all of a sudden, they're your best customer, your best buddy. I have one gentleman, he's great. He drives over an hour away to my shop. He has 60, 70, I don't know how many bikes. And he keeps buying bikes. He loves bikes. He buys them when he goes travels. He buys them, when he's bored. But he always brings them to me to have my magic tune done to it, detailing the frames, waxing the chain, replacing the cables and the housing, because he entrusted me. If I would have alienated him 4 years ago, when he first came to me, if I would have alienated him, I would have lost out on at least over 150 service tickets. That's a pretty big deficit to refill on one mistake. So train your staff, and they can admit that they don't know something, but they need to find out how to, be personable. I mean, we don't know everything. None of us do. So, but, give them the best tools possible, and knowledge is the best tool possible for being a bike mechanic. Because if you do not know how to use this, a chain checker, it is just a paperweight. So, it's like one of those things. Tools are great. You got to have the best tool to do the job, but you got to have the knowledge to actually do the job right. And nobody wants to mess up a $5,000 bike and try to explain that to the customer, why they weren't trained or tooled up enough or whatever to do the job right. So, best, because it'll save you thousands on the back ends of mess ups. Whoa. All righty. Ooh, man, I'm running out of, I got topics and I'm running out of time. I might have to carry one of these topics over. I will skip the next one and go into, let me double check here. But thank you all for chiming in. Hopefully you're getting some of this. And this does apply to, some people are like, you're not applying to the cyclist portion of it. Well, if you spin it the other direction, if you're a cyclist and you're listening, it's like, oh, well, next time I go in a shop, I'm going to ask them a dumb question I know. And if they don't know the answer, okay, I'll be light and polite about it, but I'm not going to have my work done there. Or just, try to figure out who the lead mechanic is, or, whatever. Because it's your baby. It's like you're on that thing. You trust it with your life. You go into corners going 20, 30 miles per hour, and it needs to hug the road. And be safe and enjoyable. And a lot of those bikes for a lot of people are just mental health. You go on a bike ride and you're like okay with the world again for at least a day. It's just it's good for your health, mental health, huge, but heart health, absolutely. I mean, honestly, if my dad rode more, he probably would have survived his heart attack, like Kirk did last March. And if you don't know Kirk, I have a video about Kirk. Watch the video about Kirk. It's uplifting. It's like every cyclist's retirement dream. This is what you should be reaching for when you hit retirement age. I mean, this is not by performance, just by accepting who you are in your community and how to build upon it, because that's your next job. It may not pay, but it pays 10 times fold within your community. Yeah, okay, just a double check on the chats here. Thanks, people, for chatting in and all that. Mark, Ella, thank you for chiming in. Appreciate it. Oh, I miss the days of the starting of the shop as a bike builder at a high volume shop in the 90s. Pipe Chihuahua. Yeah, bike builders in the 90s. There was a chain here called Bicycle Village. They had like 12 stores, and we had a couple of our mechanics go over there and work for them. They were buddies of my dad, and it was very interesting to, back then we didn't have YouTube and communications between different shops and that kind of thing. It was pretty just like a black hole, and when you learn stuff, you're like, oh my goodness, that is so different than how we do it, or wow, I didn't know that. I should implement that in my way of building stuff. Oh, the difference between, Josh, a precision e-bike, that's great. The difference between a bike mechanic and a doctor is when we wash our hands before or after we pee. I wear a lot of gloves now, not just when I pee, but working on bikes, it's been a game changer. It keeps them pink. That's just my natural color. Nothing. Or versus like stained. But I did have paint stain for a while because I didn't take any gloves with me while painting. It's really hard to paint when it's like 80 degrees and you're just sweating. It's hot. All right. Okay. What should I do? Community engagement or business planning and staff training? Oof, those are two heavy hitters. I think community engagement is probably the most important topic. And before I get into that, I want to do a verbal plug of, let's timestamp this. So I leverage eBay. I've been leveraging eBay for almost the beginning of eBay, back in the early 2000s. It was a small starter project of mine. I was working at a bike shop, and I was buying used bikes and shopping up and selling the parts and frames. I was not in the best relationship at the time, and it didn't work out, but it worked out. That particular business model worked out with a lot of other companies that are currently now, that's their main business, is they take bikes and clean parts and provide valid, inspected, bikemechanic parts available for eBay, as well as frames and forks and wheels, basically upcycling instead of the whole bike and parts. Right, particularly now, this is the great opportunity to do so for your own business, as well as did. So I have a link below in my description of my eBay store. You can get an idea and a concept by going on there. Also, there is an eBay affiliate link. So if you're going to go buy something on eBay, go through my store first. Hopefully the cookies will cover the trail, and that way you can opportunity to benefit by buying something off eBay that's refurbished, either my parts or some other sellers. I just recommend buying a seller that has over 1,000 positive reviews in general, because that kind of shows that they're in it for the business side of it and actually making an effort, versus just somebody just selling just junk out of their drawer, which may be okay or may not be okay. So you want to vet that, or ask the questions with the actual seller. Do you watch these, vet them, and ensure that they're in good working order and what kind of thing. Also, if they're compatible with what you want to put it on. So same thing with me. So through that eBay store, you can, as a shop, leverage all those extra bits that are rolling around in your store for the last however long, and actually turn them to dollars to help your staff move forward. Also, you can use that as a complete leverage piece for helping your staff make money for themselves in the off season or in season as a benefit or promotion. In other words, if you come across parts, have them sold on eBay, you split it 50-50, that kind of thing. So it's usually a lot of inventory that you didn't really put any money into. It's just leftovers, and you can actually leverage that to put it towards keeping your staff fed, have a wage or a promotion or that kind of thing, or a party, or however you want to see fit. But the eBay thing could be actually work well for you, which I mentioned before. eBay does have cost to it. Keep in mind, when they add the sales tax and shipping, their percentage is on the whole dollar amount, which actually knocks that whatever percentage that they're saying to closer to more 20% to 25%. So if you have a value equated to that product that you're trying to sell, keep that in mind, because it's going to feel kind of painful, but also priced appropriately to offset that actual cost. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me in the shop. This is one of those situations where I've leveraged eBay and I've been doing it for years, and it's also really kept the basically cash flow flowing while I'm trying to do all this other stuff. So you can leverage it for yourself. You can help me with my channel by just buying stuff through the eBay portal through there. Therefore, that's the end of my plug. On to community engagement. Yeah, if you have any questions about that, if you want to leverage it for your own shop or anything like that, send me an email, that kind of thing. I've been doing it for years, and actually right now, parts and frames and stuff are selling versus whole bikes, and you're taking more of a hit on full bikes, and then on just parts and so forth. Case in point, you buy a bike for $400, and typically you would put maybe a 50 or $100 and some time and labor to tune it up. So you need to get an X amount, let's say like $700-800 out of that bike to make a profit that validates it. Well, that market is pretty much flat right now, so you'll have to discount that, and you're only making $100 off that $400 that you actually invested. Well, let's say you take that $400, chop it up, and then just the time of cleaning up and so forth, you make $400 off of that bike. You doubled it, or even just double, double that you would have made, like $200. So, and that actually adds, and you do get some of your investment up faster than others, and other parts of that broken down, 8 to 10 parts. So you get that money back as cash flow. So it helps you out. So instead of waiting for that full bike to sell. So anyway, a little gold nugget for you if you're selling stuff on eBay and you're considering full bikes versus parts and accessories, that kind of thing. Any case. All right. Community engagement. Independent bike dealers double down on the community building intensities. So it's all about the community, people. I mean, it's what our markets have come down to is about community base. Either you're working with your other shops in your neck of the woods, or if you're working with race events, ride events, sponsors. It doesn't have to be in a cycling. It could just be some other event from a restaurant and they just want to have you hang out, which I've had, which is kind of fun, a little different, and that kind of thing. So within community engagement, a lot of bike shops, if you've been around, know this. Community engagement doesn't have to be limited or liable to business, your location only. That's the kicker. You go out or do something on YouTube event or Facebook marketing, Facebook event. There's a lot of different creative ways you can build that community. Reach out and make a bigger community, especially if you sell stuff online, like you have a website and you're selling stuff on your website as well as eBay, conjunction, both those are the same. You can use events to help with that. And those events could be a lot of different things, but it doesn't have to be always just within the brick and mortar store. We all get kind of pigeonholed. Well, maybe I should have a club ride, or maybe I should have a trainer nights. And some things do work for some markets and some don't. And you probably weeded out some of those, but you want to be looking for some of those that you may have not tried yet, or maybe something that your community doesn't know they really need it yet until you get it, kind of thing. How about this one? Right off the top of my head, chain waxing event. Let me show you how. We'll just bring in your bike chains and we'll wax them. And I'll show you how to do it firsthand. And it'll be a little clinic and how to maintain them. And all of a sudden you're selling bags of wax and you're getting service tickets from it. And they realize it's a really colossal pain in the butt to do. So they're going to buy a pre-wax chain from you anyway, because it's a huge buzz that's going on within the cycling community. Or then show the wear and tear and when it starts making noise, and it's the way I do it. I mean, you can probably do it in less than a 30-minute to an hour clinic thing on one night and have some, food or whatever, building that community. It's like, hey, this is something that we're thinking about doing or whatever. And that's a great way to launch a certain service that goes back to another topic, kind of thing as well. So you really incorporate a lot of different perspectives and make it fun for yourself and your staff and your community all at the same time. Hey, everybody doesn't just always want to be just like, oh, here's my money, give me my bike, I'm going to go ride. And they're having fun out there, but not having fun within the bike shop experience. That needs to change. The bike shop experience, I mean, some of them have coffee shops and have a hangout and all that, again, but sometimes they still can be sterile. Those events could really kind of brings out certain staff members and talk about you can have an open speak mic thing, go hey, my name's Pete. I love working on tri-bikes and I've been working on it for so many years and I love going to events. Say, hey, if you have an event that's in New Zealand and you want to fly me out there to work on your bike, I'm all ears. It's those kinds of things that you're introducing. These mechanics are people. A lot of us are introverts. I broke that through that shell a long time ago. I was introvert as well. But if they open up, you learn something about them, they learn something about their community, they become part of that community. They're not so isolated in that back room working on all those DI2s and whatever, sealant tubes and all that. So there's that community that you can build up an engagement, which will pay, I swear to God, will pay you 10 times fold down the road, 100 times more down the road. Makes you a better bike shop, makes you better people in the bike shop, makes your customers better customers to your bike shop. I mean, it's just good all around. So it's one of those things that I've seen it in action, and when it's done right, it's awesome. And you feel really good about what you do. That's what it comes down. So we're going to talk about hosting indoor events. And I'm going to be running over on time, but I think it's important. So there's a couple bullet points on this. It's like indoor events, workshops, and classes. We just kind of talked about that. You can do waxing or how to use smart trainers, what smart trainers work better, that kind of thing. Or, what's the best practice for tubeless tires, where you should be looked for, what tubeless sealants, which is working better for your shop, your environment, your community, what kind of gear that we need for doing those adventure ridings. A lot of people do adventure ridings, but I don't know about water bottle cages or something like that. I got contacted by a water bottle cage guy that makes water bottle cages here in Fort Collins. I didn't even know he was here. He makes the ones that fit the bigger ones. He's going to drop some samples off and I'm going to feature those. I love supporting local businesses. They may just be making water bottle cages or like waffles to eat or something. I have a lineup video on that for waffles in Boulder. They're local too. So, it's like, even though I'm not their prime niche, but my community is. So when you do those indoor hosting events, and it doesn't even have to be in the shop. You can do like happy hour at such place, or pizza, or here we have a place called Flipside, and it has a pinball arcade place. It's pretty nice. You don't have to, technically I think you can bring your own food. You can have an event there and be like, I know a guy by shop, end of the season party. I bought out this place for 3 hours or 2 hours, and come down, play some pinball, grab a beverage if you want. I'll have pizzas. Let's just have a great time. Doesn't have to be in the shop. Your staff will have you. Your community will love to hang out, talk with you. You can play some pinball, and get to know each other a little bit better, and just have a fun. And yeah, it's those things will pay for itself 10 times over. And then you can hand out little coupons or whatever. It's like, hey, here's 20% off of tune-ups or 10% of your next item. All businesses do. But it's those events that can really make you stand out over. And my dad always had a thing, is like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it with a sense of style. You got to have a little bit of style with it, not just be like everybody else. Have some style. And he was a very awkwardly styled guy, So everybody loved him. He was a jibber jabber. He'll talk your ear off. He got along with everybody in the fence post, and it's one of those things where those events, man, he shined. He was like the main event himself. It was just so fun. In any case, that's something you want to do for sure. And going on to the next bit. We're talking about launching digital community initiatives. You're looking at it right now. Shop Talk Tuesday. You can have your own. Landry's out on the East Coast. If any of those guys are watching this on the replay, I'm not sure you're watching that. They tried to start YouTube, and they did like Between the Two Ferns kind of thing, where they were doing between the two bike stands or something like that. They had a couple of videos, but they never really ran with it. I don't think they ever saw the investment on the turn on it fast enough or whatever, which a lot of shops don't see, and they just shut that part down too quick. But it's, some shops have done really well with it. And if you're an avid watcher of YouTube, those particular channels that have really leveraged those podcasts on a weekly basis, and they just have a couple characters talking about whatever. And sometimes there may be such a character that it doesn't matter what they're talking about. It's just fun to listen to. You may learn something, may not learn something, but you're entertained by it, and you feel like you're part of that community. So, your reach does not have to be within the city limits of your shop. That's my point is, and that's exactly what my business runs. Because I've drawn service for hundreds of miles different directions, and I'm taking care of customers like, oh, do you have this front derailleur? Oh yeah, I have it. Oh, can you ship it to Florida where I live? I mean, come on, Florida is probably the furthest place away from me, or Maine. It's like those two places, So and I consider them part of my community. That is my community. I mean, you may not be close, you may not even be in the States, but I'm providing information for you to help you find and navigate your cycling itch of that week of trying to scratch and trying to figure out. And either you want to do a ride or you want to try to get that bike to work or whatever the case may be. So digital platform is huge. You can do, the private Facebook events. Some people go on a Discord. That's scary to me. Or Reddit, that's still scary to me. I haven't gone there yet. But, the safer for me is like, Facebook, Instagram, maybe TikTok, there's those communities and they, you can build those up and they will help the bottom line of your business at some point because you're building that community and they're going to want to help you on the flip side, providing them either information or parts or bikes or what have you, that kind of thing for sure. Knowledge is huge when it comes to cycling because there's so much of it that's been going on. I mean, I don't know everything. Holy crap, there's new stuff coming out all the time. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more. But I try to stick in my lane and what I'm interested in and what I'm doing and what actually fits my community is what I gravitate to and then just, keep exploring it because it's fun for me. So, and it should be fun for those who are within those niches too, because I'm sure Josh at Precision E-Bike, he geeks out on it. I mean, that's his thing. He just loves it. I look at a motor going, oh my God, that's scary. I don't want to touch that. Here, Josh, that's all you. That's fine. And I'm fine with that. He's fine with that. Everybody's fine with it. So yeah, any case, that's another part that's huge. You got your local indoors and you have your digital community you can work with. And lastly, but not least by any means, is building local partnerships. Local partnerships could be your competition. It could be a company that has nothing to do with bikes. Those partnerships, it's if you think about it and you take those opportunities, we go to let's call it Spa Via and we get massages done there because I'm old and I got to be straightened out. I got too many kinks and it's professional. Don't take it there. It's a professional place. But for me, we could leverage some kind of a community event or we can have a partnership. I talked to the owner about this a couple times. I mean, I can buy some maybe discounted, massages and give them out to some bingo thing or whatever within my, within my business. Or if you get a free massage every time you spend $1,000 at my shop or something like that. You can branch out with your local businesses is one thing that are not related to your bike shops. You can do with even your competitors. Technically they're competitors, but are they? Or other niche shops that don't fit your niche exactly, but you can want a conjunction with them, like Josh and I can do something. Or we can work out a deal between me and Josh, maybe the Shock guys down in Longmont. We can have an event and just kind of whatever, or I'll just share a tent at the Bellows Swap down in Denver or whatever, right? It's like there's these things that you can leverage, and I guarantee you will learn a lot from other business people somewhat either in your industry or not in industry about how to help build up your own business and keep your business going. Well, what does this do for the cyclists? I mean, wouldn't it be a fun event? I can go get discounts and massages and get my bike worked on? What the heck? That's a great place. It's like, man, I had a really rough event last weekend. My bike needs a spa and I need one too. Hey, can we all just join in for all the fun and feel better about things? But in any case, I mean, collaborations are huge, and it could be just, for me just going to a shop and interviewing you, and I'm happy to do that. It's, fun to see how other shops work and how they support their community and how they've learned and their experiences. And the one I had the interview with Swanee Cycles in Las Vegas. Had so much fun there, and I made new friends. And it's like now I go to Vegas, I'm like, oh, I ping them like, hey, I'm in a town. Is there any rides or whatever I need to be thinking of and all that? It's like I feel like I'm part of their community too now. So it's a great joint adventure of doing that. And then if you have a shop in your neck of the woods that you leverage, and you want to get to know a little bit more, like, yeah, I mean, all the shops in the Fort Collins area should talk to Josh at some point, hang out with him for at least 30 minutes and just get the insights and knowledge of this guy. I mean, it's like amazing. And that helps me become a better supporter of my cycling community. Even though I don't work on those, I know someone, I know a guy. And that really helps you as representing your own shop, because even though you may not do that, you know somewhere you can take them and they'll get just as good as trusted work as what you do there. So even though you may send your, tune-ups that you may do already because you're so darn busy and you need to send them to another shop, well, just don't blanketly send them to another shop. I did that mistakenly, and they got horrible service at that shop. And it was bad on me, not necessarily they got horrible service, but the corporate Kool-Aid, all their service techs say anything over 5 years, they try to upsell to a new bike, which I should have known that, because that would alienate all my customers, because all my customers have older bikes. So I should have not have sent them there whatsoever. That's bad on me, which it did. And I had to pay for that. But I better find another shop that services bikes if I'm going to be sending service somewhere else that does similar what I do it just as well as I do, pretty close, that kind of thing. And there's, some people will wait, some people can't. And therefore, if you set up your service department where you have a couple extra empty slots for oh shit repairs, like they need to come in and get it done, and you may or may not want to charge more or whatever, don't advertise it. But if they're a good customer, you don't want to alienate that. I mean, that one customer that has 50 or 60 bikes, like if he rolls in today on a rainy day, like, oh, I need this work done, I'm dropping everything and I'm going to work on it. And I got to make sure I have time in the week that's allotted for that adjustment, so I'm not stressing myself out by the rest of the week trying to like catch up. Is you need to space yourself out and be in a positive position, because you can damage your community by being not prepared for it. And there's anomalies, of course. You can't be prepared for everything, but if you do the best part, and it's like for me, what I do is unique in itself, but standard in others. I do service, also do YouTube, also wax chains, also detail bikes, also chop shop. I sell bikes on eBay and my website, and I detail frames that I'm going to sell. And it's turned out to be like 8 businesses in one, and each one of them. And some of them don't make me any money right now. Some of them I'm investing time in it. To some point, that passive income will actually help me transition to a little bit lighter load down the road, because I can't sustain physically working on so many bikes every day. I mean, I'm aging to a point where I only can do so many tune-ups during a day, which is like 1, for all of what I do in them, and standing and all that kind of thing. When I was younger, yeah, I can do like 5 or 6 tune-ups and just keep cranking. Well, I had the knees for it back then. My feet didn't hurt my back or whatever. So those are the things that you got to think about if you're a one-man, one-person show. If you want to keep this going, got to look at different directions, and I'm seeding that. So within 10 years from now, I'll still be bringing great content out. I'll still be working on really cool bikes. I'll still be taking care of my community. It may not be, well, it'll be big in a different perspective instead of physical people bringing in bikes, but I'll be taking care of the people that bring in bikes. So it'll be kind of more of like a specialist type title kind of thing versus volume type title kind of deal. So it all depends how you want to proceed or execute your shop, or take your bikes to have worked on is all those things you want to think of. So instead of looking for I know a guy discount in the winter, it's like, well, I know he won't be as busy, so we have more time to work on the bike and be more attentive to details on that bike during the off season than the on season. That's a gold nugget to push out there versus just discounting. Because we got to have a livable wage. Most people understand that, but a lot of us in the situation right now are looking for the special deal. Give them a discount on tires. Don't discount your labor. Because labor is actually people money. Like, that's how I eat. But, discounting on a tire is not going to really, makes them feel a little better, and you still maintain your labor margins. So, and for people that are working on bikes, don't or looking for having somebody work on the bike, don't ask them for a discount on labor. That's not cool, because that's what they're doing. You're paying for them to have the specialty work done, and to be a specialist, they've done all this time in that industry, and you're basically when you're doing a tune-up through them, you're supporting them to keep doing, and so they'll be there to tune up your bike next year. If they're not around next year, who's going to work on their bike? It's either somebody that doesn't know how to work on bikes as well, or it's going to be you watching my videos trying to figure out how to work on your own bike. And some people are good at it, and some people can't wrap bars for the life of them. So I'll leave you on that note. In any case, it's been a great chat today. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a lot of you engaging, a lot of familiar community members. Thank you so much. I'm going to shout out to those. Sales and service, thank you for chiming in from up north. Great little contents for sure. Yeah, washing your hands, that's a good one. Yeah, cross contaminants in a bike shop is not nearly as bad as in the ER, so I just have to say that. But yeah, Josh's Precision Bike. If you're in my neck of the woods and you have an e-bike, and if you need any help with your e-bike, Josh at Precision E-Bike is the person to contact. So give him a shout. Polite Chihuahua, thank you for chiming in, and thank you for telling me how to say it correctly. Mark Ellis from GPA, thank you. Shop, I know you're out east, right? Somewhere up there. Yeah, thank you for chiming in. You've chimed in before. Awesome. Thank you for being a part of this community as well. And yeah, you guys really hammered it. And Scott, if you're still on and listening, thank you for being one of my great customers. And thank you for giving me the privilege to work on your bike, amongst all the others that you send my way, for sure. Jamie, thank you for chiming in, saying I love fat bikes. Fat bikes are just fun. You're not going anywhere. And it's just kind of like, Jeep driving on a bike path or dirt road. And you just go over anything. You're not going there fast, but you're going there, you're going through the journey at exponential speed. In any case. Wow, those 2 hours went fast. And Randy, thank you for chiming in for down in Texas. It's always been a treat having you on. And a few others have not been on, or maybe they're listening and just haven't too damn busy to put down a wrench and type something up. I get it. I do get it. All those who are listening and that don't have the time to hammer the keyboard, ping in the chat or ping in the comments later at some other time. And yeah, I appreciate it. AT, thank you for chiming in, asking that question. Oh yeah, used bikes. Yeah, I forgot to do that. AT, used bikes. There's a whole bunch out there, especially in certain markets more than often than not. But if you're in an area which has a pretty decent population density, Facebook Marketplace is a good place. Craigslist is another good place. I've been finding pretty good carbon bikes, nice aluminum bikes, niche steel frame bikes like Le Mans and so forth, all for under 500. Keep in mind, if you want to have that tuned up, it's probably at least about $100 for a tune-up and maybe $50 for parts and stuff like that. You can probably try to do it yourself. I do implore most people to try to work on the bikes first before they take it to the bike shop, so they get to a little more understanding the inner workings of the bike and bike itself. And then you understand and have more respect and anyway, for somebody working on the bike and showing you how to fix those and get it tuned up. But in any case, you can find bikes, I'm sure you can probably find a $300 bike that's in but the first and foremost thing you need to learn is what size you take in that brand. A lot of them are pretty close, but you want to be pretty damn sure. Look up that Giant in the size sheet and like, oh, am I a medium large or a large? And if that bike's available in that size for you, you're good. Doesn't matter how good a deal it is, if it's not the right size, it's not the bike for you. So that first is fit is foremost the most important thing. Then you go from there. Then you go get it tuned up. And at least if you do your work on your own bike and you got a kind of question about it, take it to the shop to have it safety checked to make sure it's really, you may have missed something that you may have not even known it's there or could have even known. We have mechanic eyes. We've been working on bikes for a long time. We'll catch stuff sometimes, most of the time, that a lot of people won't. That's why I had a professional plumber install the toilets in my condo last week. Because, I mean, I can do it, sure. Did I want to? No. And secondly, I don't live there on a daily basis. So if something I screwed up, I'm not gonna be able to fix it easily. So my fix would be calling the plumber. So I'm like, I might as well just call the plumber up front and get it over with, done right in the first place. So therefore, going back to that question, AT, yes, there's some decent ones. There's a lot of brand name ones. If you're wanting something that's pre-built and ready to go, there's some shops that do provide well-tuned up bikes ready to go. But for that price point, there's not very many of those companies out there like me that was producing those, because right now the market's not sustaining that. But there is one shop, Will and Sprocket, they do ship. You have to kind of navigate their website to figure out the shipping, but they do ship their used bikes. They are tuned up and ready to go. They do a lot of valid work, like I do, to the bike before it goes out the door, and they do support their used products. So, and they're in Wisconsin, and they have 2 locations in Chicago, and they have like 10 stores. It's a family-owned business, so you feel a little bit better buying from a family-owned business. I know the son, the father passed away, but the son and the 2 sisters, great family, the Kegels, they're great community people. So that's what I would suggest. If you're going to buy a used one, look on their site, see if there's something that fits you in the road, or even reach out to them. They may not have it listed as like, hey, I'm X type, I'm looking for a $500 bike, maybe $100 in shipping. What do you have that would fit me to get into road riding? I'm sure they'll be able to find something for you. They're great. They're great people. And if I was local to them, I'd be working there. That's how great they are. I'd still probably do something like this, but you would see me there. And that's the company. They actually own the Retail Toolkit. That's why I know them so well. They previously owned the software that I worked for back in the day, which was sold to Smart Retailing, which is now Kickstand. If you know the inner circles of the dumb internet, whatever. Oh, thanks, Randy. Preach on. I'm just surprised people listen to me talk for so long. Jibber jabber. Any case. Oh, get to know your local e-bike shop owner. It's a good one. Well, any of your shop owners. If you walk in the door and it's like, who's your shop owner? And there's some reason they're the shop owner. They either most often or not, they are into cycling and cycling community. Once in a while, you get they own a business, which is rare, but they're out there. Anyway, any case, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday. I got to start working on a tune-up. I got another one coming in, and I'm like a month out on service. So things for me are really good, and a lot of that is driven by, you guessed it, having a YouTube channel. So anyway, I'll have to feature this tool later. It's the Park Chain Checker. I met a former employee at Park Tools recently, and I was checking some of their buddies' bikes before they did the triple bypass. It's one of the John Bradley's buddies, videos on him. He was like, yeah, you got to get this tool. It does the flat chains from SRAM, so you can check the length. Also, it's longer, so you can actually have more of a proper representation of the stretchness of the chain. If I'm saying that right. Because I have this old school one, which is like this short and it has a little dial there. I mean, it works. You know, it'll be interesting to see how this one compares to the other one as in actually checking chains. Because all bike shop mechanics are, this is the tool that we all, or one of the styles of tools that we carry. I don't think any of us are going to buy the KMC $300 chain checker, digital chain checker. I mean, if anybody has one, let me know how you think about it. But that seems pretty absurd for something like a piece of hardened sheet steel, stamped steel can do for 20 bucks. Anyway. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm starting to go hoarse. I better go work on some stuff, have some lunch. Read Bicycle Retailer. There's a post below if you want industry news. They've been around for decades, so they're good to have. And again, everybody have a wonderful week. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. And if it's Tuesday, I'll be here, Shop Talk Tuesday, except for the days I'm not. That's very perverse. This is kind of a cool tool. Yeah, oh, cool. Oh, there's those little fancy notches on there. I'll have to find maybe a magnet, stick it on the wall. Arm's reach. Don't want to step on it. Seems pretty sturdy. Yeah, I hope it's the actual thing. I forgot to check on Amazon. You want to check the sellers. And even then, it could be wrong. Because what happens is, if anybody is still listening, on Amazon, finding out through the guy from Park, they had some tools that were sent to them that were fake Park tools, looked exactly, and they could figure, it took them a little while to figure it out, but they're like little, just little micro things that they could check to find out like, oh, that's not from us. So what happens is these are put into a fulfillment center in Amazon. This is a dirty little secret. So they get a big batch from Park and they put it in a bucket for the CC 4.2. All right, they put it in a bucket at the fulfillment center. And they get another batch from some other company. Who knows, X company. Park Tools, part number. Put it in there, in the same bucket. Gets mixed up, gets sent out. Is this the real one, or is this the fake? That's what we're seeing with some of the Shimano chains, fulfillment. And some other parts on there. It's not to the fault of like Shimano or Park Tool, they're getting filled in. So sometimes if it's something that's really big, first check the company, see where it's coming from. And if it's like you can have it tomorrow morning, that's in the pool with all the maybe fake ones. And it's really hard for them to monitor all that, of course, because there's billions of parts that are going through there. So anyway. Little insider weirdness of Amazon on that. But anyway, not to say you should buy from Amazon, just be a little mindful, especially on the high ticket items, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure this is, from Park Tool. If you do have a problem with any products that you think that might be fraudulent from another, like a Shimano or a Park Tool or Feedback Sports or something like that, you can contact the company direct and say, hey, I got a tool here, and a lot of these good brands, they have a pretty good warranty or the customer service, let's put it that way, and they'll take care of a lot of your stuff. If you have any issues, or if I had like this one, I think it was a couple bucks a posted. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem kind of thing, right, when you're buying stuff. Anyway. I probably froze. Looks like I may have froze. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. It was Tuesday again, and you're shopping in neck of the woods. Have a wonderful day. Frozen on the screen here. Don't know if I'm still streaming. Oh, I think I caught up. Got all that bit? Shh, don't tell anyone. Guys have a wonderful time. I'll be working some cool stuff. I got a titanium bike to work on. I got a classic 2200. I have a specialized Roubaix. Got cool stuff. Yep. Man, constant rain. Yeah, let me read this.